call this meeting to order. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, can you please establish a quorum? We have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there any change of sequence or removal of items?
No, there is not.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item number 5, announcements.
None.
Okay. Item number 6, celebrations.
So we do have one, and it's in my district administrator update as the first slide, so I would ask that we can just address it and get it to my district administrator update.
We can do that because that's the next agenda item.
Excellent.
Do we have one more celebration?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Deb, for the correction. Mr. Seymour, yes, we do have a Panther Pride Award to give out tonight. Mr. Seymour is going to be recognizing someone.
Yes, I thought that was what you were referring to in your first slide. Your administrator reports, I just said, I figured out.
No,
Okay, let's back up and go to celebrations.
Well, I'd like to present Hunter with the Panther Pride Award. He was under the assumption that he's here to help me talk about summer tech stuff, but he can stay for that if you'd like. It's up to him. But he's been working with me through the Youth Apprentice, through Senior Capstone first semester, Youth Apprentice second semester in the summer. Doing a fantastic job, really great assets to the IT department, quick, steady, diligent learner, respectful of staff and students, works well with staff and students. Every now and then text a student going, hey, where is this? I need this. So he's got that into get parts, better things. So I just like to recognize Hunter and present him with the Panther Pride Award. Congratulations.
thank you, Hunter.
Thank you.
Hunter, are you going to be a senior?
You graduated.
Okay, you graduated this last year. Okay.
So what's next?
UW will apply for the visa program.
Excellent, excellent. Hopefully this internship and apprenticeship has really served you well.
It's been very insightful, to say the least.
Good deal. Well, good luck at UW Eau Claire and make us proud. Even prouder.
Thanks, Hunter.
It's very hot here, so
Thank you all, though.
So as far as celebrations, I wanted to recognize that Mike Rogan's Celebration of Life is going to be coming up. Spoke with Marla, and the reason I put it under celebrations is Marla and I talked on the phone, and she had indicated Mike was insistent upon not having a memorial service and having it be a celebration of life, which is shocking to no one who knew Mike, obviously. So we've shared this out with all staff and with the board. It'll be on Friday at the UCC. So I just wanted to put that under the celebration component because I think it's appropriate.
Good name.
So I'm going to give my spring sport update now. We had a full agenda last month, so I didn't really get closure. And I believe actually at the time we still had some kids competing, and some baseball team was still in sectionals, I think. So general overview, we had a very successful spring season with our spring sports programs. Very good participation for a school our size, which is something that's impressive to me. I want to start with the softball program. That is the evening that they did for Scarlett, where they did fundraising for Scarlett, who was the daughter of a Pittsville grad who was dealing with some health issues. So I want to recognize some of our individual players on each of the teams. We had Haley Zwisland was first team all CWC. Lotta Vollert was second team as a freshman. And then we had Catherine Schooley and Leah Downs were both honorable mention, all CWC. Something I want to point out with the softball program is they went, they were around 500 this year. They were competitive in the majority of their games, and they went from, as Kim would point out to me, that they were last the year before in the conference, and the growth of the program over the last 4 years has been spectacular. So I wanted to point that out. There's some photos. Track and field. So we had, both our boys and girls programs were conference champs. I believe that was Mr. Winters, was that a 4-peat or a 3-peat for the girls now?
3.
P.O. told me, 3-peat. 3-peat for the girls as conference champs. The boys actually tied, and it still counts as a conference championship. They tied, which didn't happen very often to meet that size, but 2 teams tied for first place, and that's why every point matters in track. We had, there's some photos. The thing about track, not that everybody wants a lesson on track and field, but you can have smaller numbers in track and have a lot of success if you can have people score in multiple events, or you can have a lot of kids fill in events. There's a couple ways to success. We kind of have a mix of both of those things. We have some kids who score high points in multiple events, and then we have just kids who fill events and score points. That's how you win conference championships. We had 2 qualifiers for the state meet, Reese Grimm in the 400 and Jack Redmond. Reese finished 9th. Jack did not place and make the podium, but it's a great feat, honestly, even to make the state meet. So many things have to go right. So congratulations to those 2. And for baseball, I almost had to use 2 slides for all of the awards associated with the baseball team. Maybe get down on my slide because my eyes don't work as well to look that far away and read that stuff off. So boys were the CWC South Conference champions. They were also the regional champs. And then for the awards, Dylan Luther was the player of the year in the conference, and Justin was the CWC coach of the year. Dylan was also first team all district. He was a Division IV, he was the player of the year in the district, and he was honorable mention all state, and Evan Haley was also second team all district. Other honors, so we had 4 athletes that made first team. Dylan, Dawson Luther, Evan Haley, and Logan Zickert were all first team all conference. Brad Neal and Joy Downs were second team, and Waylon Grimm was honorable mention. Some pictures from the sectional game. Okay, so those were my final spring sports updates. I only have 2 other things as part of my update, and this is kind of a lead-in. I'm not going to go through every point on this, but it's going to be a lead-in to our strategic planning process that we're going to discuss later as far as the approval, just to give you a feel for where that fits in what the work we're doing right now leading up to the August professional learning days with staff. So we're going to be doing a data dive led by CISA on July 31st with the 4K8 building. They're going to come in and we're going to disseminate the data. We just got our forward data back. We have our AP exam data back from the high school. We'll be waiting on our ACT data. For the high school, the only forward exam data is for sophomores that we have available. It's not inconsequential, but it's limited in what the value would be for us to disseminate at the high school level. We're going to compile that data and sort it by grade level and department level. And then we're going to be utilizing that in August at those professional learning days. So August 23rd, we're going to do a district level presentation of all of our data, like an overview for all staff in the Fine Arts Center. And then on August 23rd, the grade in departments and buildings will break down into applicable groups that they're then going to go through the data. And it's going to include data walls where we'll have individual student data. So we can see that where there are maybe students that need some extra support that are on those cut lines that by proficiency in basic and below basic. And then the individual staff, what will happen with that is the buildings, the grade levels, and the departments will use that to set their goals, their yearly goals, which are going to nest under the student achievement pillar in the strategic plan. Those will come back to the school board in September so we'll have those in September. We will bring those back to the board for approval in September, all those individual goals that'll be under that pillar. And then what will happen is our staff will align their SLO and PPGs under those building and grade level goals. It's kind of, you'll see how it's all a systemic thing that all of those efforts are focused on. What are those areas we're identifying through our data that are areas that we need to shore up? And there's useful information in that data where we're seeing some things that staff already talked about, areas that we need to shore up. The PLC work will then allow that continuing development throughout the year and focus on those goals and that work that'll be done. So that's kind of the overview of where the goal setting and the data discussion and all the things we're doing will fit under that strategic plan. So tonight, when we get to the agenda item, I'm going to be asking the board to approve the 5 pillars and the mission and vision statement, and then staff will then fill in those action steps and goals underneath there to come back in September. So, and we will do the last piece there. We will give a mid-year update. Administrators will give a mid-year update to the board on how we're doing on those goals, and then we'll have a year-end update on those goals. I would remind the board, it's a living document. Like, there is no, we don't do the finished with the goals. Like the goals, it's continuing work, and we're going to strive to get better every day, get better. Okay. So, Marion and I discussed like board development ideas, and it's something that we wanted to open up here for discussion tonight to the board as far as what are some ways that we can. I think we have a board that's very involved and eager to learn more and to do more, and board development would be a logical step in doing that. So we talked about a few things. I listed some ideas here. The board goals I wanted to reference. Board goals are not district goals. Board goals are specifically goals you set for yourselves as a school board. So that's why I put that up as board goals. It wouldn't be like our district goal. But anyway, I want to open it up to Mary Ann and the board to discuss some of these, the potential for some of this as a board development opportunity during the course of the year. Thoughts on a board, the vision behind a board retreat would be maybe we could set those board goals during a board retreat. We could set an agenda as far as things that we wanted to focus on about processes, just to get more efficient and talk about how we do things.
Yeah, I kind of look at this from the standpoint of continuous quality improvement. I think we have a good board. I think we have a pretty high functioning board, but how can we get better to better support administration, staff, and students, all focusing on that, improving student outcomes. And I would see a board retreat as not, I probably even see it less formal than you do from the standpoint of let's just get together and talk, about process, about, what's working well, what can we do better? Are there things we can do using the resources of WASB?
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that if we have a retreat, it's a great opportunity if there are particular topics. We have a relatively new board, from the perspective that at least 3 of us haven't been on more than 3 years. It's, there's a relatively new board.
Right.
That there could be even some topics that could be educational in nature, that there just isn't time at a board meeting to give the educational component of that, whether it's some fiscal components or different, so I think there could absolutely be some goal setting, some just continued good relationship building, but also always an opportunity to do some more deeper dive on some educational components that, wouldn't require then Jason or others to go through them 4 times because we came and asked questions and it just needed a little extra information because it's not, that educational component isn't always suited best in a board meeting. So I would think that all of the above would be.
I know there's times where there's questions that I would like to discuss with the board that we don't have time to discuss. And I think I mentioned it to you about, I can't remember exactly how I stated it, but just if we could have time, maybe built into a meeting where we bring up, miscellaneous, that's not really feasible. We're so crunched for time as it is. I think time is one of the aspects that we have to look into because our board meetings can go until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And that's not typical. So there's some sharpening that we could really work on. So I think that would be next step. And to set some of these goals. I think these are all good. Who came up with these 3 ideas? You or Jason?
Together. And you bring up an interesting point, Chris, absolutely, as far as talking about there's multiple components we can look at as far as being more efficient with those meetings. And something we talked about from the administrative side, as Mary and I did today, is us getting the agenda materials earlier to the board for review so that you have time to look through that. But something else that we talked about was This is kind of atypical for me. I'm new as well, right? I still have that new car smell technically here, at least for another couple of weeks. But with as far as like me having most of the authority over setting the board agenda, which is not typical, we talked about that should be a collaboration between the board and the district administrator, and that something that we just said, there's things you want to talk about is having at the end of board meetings, are there any future agenda items that the board would like to add to future agenda, those types of discussions. So that was absolutely something we talked about today, Mary Ann and I did, as far as to discuss at the retreat and come up with a plan to be more efficient and kind of more fine-tuned, or as Mary Ann liked to say, instead of the shotgun, more of a kind of rifle focused type approach.
Yeah.
So I think that's great.
Rick, you're the newest
I
newbie.
am the newest. I have many questions all the time. Yeah, I can see big benefits to it.
So the question I would pose that we talked about, Mary Ann, was I would see value in trying to get that done before the school year starts, because we know once the school year starts, things get chaotic and full, that maybe seeing if we could try to set something up yet in August if possible. But I would throw that out for discussion.
Do people feel comfortable looking at their calendars right now? Do you have your calendar with you, or is this something we could do via email?
With Nate not being here, maybe we should,
Yeah, maybe we should do
Do
it
it
via
email.
email.
because I think it's important we have everyone available
Yeah, it is. Good suggestion, Jason.
every once in a while.
You do.
Are we thinking in evening? Is that what you're thinking?
Mary Ann, what are your
I'm
thoughts?
not thinking anything. I'm thinking whatever works best for everybody, whether it's a
Saturday
evening,
morning
a
or
Saturday
evening?
morning. I just wouldn't want it to go any longer than, at the most, 4 hours, at the very most.
That would be the,
So I don't have any free Saturdays in August. I have some free Sundays, but I don't have any free Saturdays, just to throw out, like they're already
Okay,
all
I'll look.
what do we think about throwing out an
weddings and
evening?
showers and.
With that knowledge, throwing out an evening in the email discussion, and maybe doing it, set it at 3 hours, like an evening, do a Wednesday.
Like, yeah. Something like maybe a 6 o'clock start time where we bring in some food.
Yeah.
And then bingo, 9 o'clock, time to go.
So, we can certainly send emails. I can also tell you that there is only one Wednesday that's actually a bad night for me. Sorry.
Well, actually, sports aren't that as big of a,
The rest
Deal
of them
during the
seem to be
summer.
okay, but for some reason I have like
We have-
evening meetings booked at.
the only reason I do out Wednesdays is because I know for some of you, you schedule Wednesdays open because of the board meetings. Like during the summer, the sports stuff is not that big of a deal as far as evening sports things.
Yeah.
As I said, us, we didn't do it on Thursday nights because I coach in basketball league.
Yeah. See, and I'm only free 2 Wednesdays in August.
The
And
9th is one of mine that are free.
So we're gonna discuss this now instead of email.
So,
I think we should do email.
Yeah.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah, good. Thanks for bringing us back to
Really
the key question. I appreciate that.
Okay,
Okay, any other questions, comments, thoughts about Jason's report? I have one, and that is, when I look at this use of the assessment data and being able to look at progress on an individual level, I really feel that one of the strengths of a small school district is that kids don't get lost. And I'm excited to see this because our faculty will really be able to know. I mean, they already know who needs the help, but I think it's going to sharpen the focus. And I think that only makes us better as a small school district and really adds to us being the small school district of choice. So, good job. Okay, agenda item number 8. Administrative staff school year summary and goal reports. It's great to see everybody here today. I know that we haven't seen all the directors on a monthly basis, and we know you've been busy doing things. But it's really good to see you here tonight to give that overview. This is for information only. Hopefully folks have had an opportunity to review these reports ahead of time. And, you know, if you have questions, let's do it. Mike?
The ever-changing world of technology. So when I wrote my report, I kind of took the last report that I presented to the board and used that as my launching pad to just kind of hit those key points, bring them up to speed. And then the summer projects, the biggest one is just security across the board. We're finding more and more that passwords are just a stumbling block, usually for us, because we forget what we changed it to. Computers are hacking your passwords, and it takes them just so short of a time to do it. The new trend is no longer using passwords, but using passphrases. The more characters, the better. And if you think of words that have nothing to do with you and put spaces between them, even better than that. Because it's just, computers are now hacking that when they find it, they send it to the person going, hey, I got one, and then the person takes over. We have had a couple phishing instances here in the district that some of you were aware of because you asked me about it. We dealt with those. We weren't the only one. It was covering the state. Prime targets were superintendents and athletic directors because they have the largest address book of those in the school district usually. And those are the prime targets. Fortunately, that wasn't much of anything to be scared of in the fact of losing data. It was more of just an annoyance is what it turned out to be. But tech coordinators all over the state were working with each other through email behind the scenes. Dealing with that. So yeah, the big focus is going to continue being security. We have a key fob to get us in the building. Soon, all of us, including board members, will have a fob to get into your files. That'll be the next level of security. That is the most secure form of multi-form authentication, two-step verification currently available. Because if you use like the passcodes or text messages to your cell phone, they're not encrypted, they're not secure. They can play man in the middle, even if it's on your cell phone. With the USB key, it has to be the PC going back and forth. There is no man in the middle protection. So that's where we're moving towards for file security. You have a key to get in the building, you don't have a key to get into your files, so only you can get in your files.
What does that mean? I guess exactly, I mean, that we won't be able to access our stuff for our board meetings or something?
Yes, you will have that USB key to get in and authenticate that it is you.
Oh, I see,
So you'll sign in.
Instead of signing in, it would be the USB.
You'd sign in and then it would request that second form of authentication. So you plug the USB key in and then it'll let you in your files. It's two-step authentication or multi-factor authentication. Your first one is your ID and password. Your second one is some other form. Currently, most of us are familiar with your cell phone or like your bank accounts and other things where it sends you a text message or a code or something like that.
Is this you?
This is going to just be a key assigned to you, linked to your district Google account. So when you sign in with your ID and password, it'll be, oh, by the way, what's your key? Plug the USB in and then it lets you in. Because you're the only one that'll have that key.
Well, you got me really scared.
What's that?
You got me really scared about, my personal stuff.
Yeah, not enough time to remember your password, like you said.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is even if your password is something as simple as password, without that key, it's still not gonna let you in.
Multi-factor authentication is something that is recommended, highly recommended for school districts in some capacity. The reason we chose that, is it called a dongle? Or
It's
is that,
UBP
does that make
UBP.
me sound old?
Yeah, it's
You keep, I used to call it a dongle.
They
You
used
stick
to,
it.
a UBP is what it's called, it's its formal name. It's
In the
UBP.
option, the reason we looked at that as an option is rather than where staff would have to get text messages on their cell phone with that key that you would have to type in, this is just more efficient to, you have it, if you carry your fob on here, you just stick it on there and you just plug it in and that's your multi-factor authentication.
And that's even to get into your mail.
This would be the.
When you log in.
Account, correct.
So, I mean, I understand getting into like any of your secured files, but like even to,
Your email is,
Even like Gmail,
Just anything with Google.
Yeah.
When you log into Google,
Yep.
yeah, when you log into Google on your computer.
I think she's wondering if we'll be able to access email on our phones.
well, right, or I always check my email on my personal computer, I only just bring this here, like,
Yeah, your personal computer has a USB.
It'll still work.
Just plug it in.
okay.
It's just a USB-A.
Michael, to Mary Ann's question about her phone, or I don't know if it was Chris that asked if they're accessing on their phone.
Correct.
Um,
I believe there is NCF, near factor authentication. You put it close to your phone, and your phone will recognize it that way. Because you have USB-C in your phone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's getting to be an interesting world.
One other question, and that is the hotspots. How many people are using, how many families approximately are still
We
using
had many
hotspots?
during COVID.
Right.
When it came time to renew our contracts, I put out the bids to our two vendors. One came in very favorably, the other one I looked at, and after I got back in my chair, I went, well, we gotta think about this, so that's when we revisited it. We moved everything to one vendor who could still handle two networks because of our wide span. Not everybody works all Verizon or US Cellular, depends on who you are, so we wanted to keep those two options available. This vendor could do both of those options, and we narrowed down to just 12. We have 6 in the elementary, 6 in the high school. And so far, we haven't had to borrow from one to substitute the other, but we have gotten relatively close to using all 6 at different points during the school year.
So we had over, beginning of the year, we had over
We had 30 each, so we had.
that we were still paying
Yeah.
for, and we cut that off, so we're down to the bare minimum of what we need for those families that need it in those situations.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep us safe.
I'm trying. Doing my best.
Okay, next, Matt. Do we have you to thank for the treats here?
You
today?
betcha. If you get a chance, please take us on the wrong way out through the homemade. Just kind of touch base on that's going to be one of our new items this year, because I'm trying to transition, getting away from more of packaged things and more homemade things. So our packaged center roll is going to be going away, and these are going to be replacing minis. Today, childcare got to be a little kind of guinea pig thing too. They're making the hamburger buns from scratch too. So we did a smoked bacon and cheese burger today for them. We did a homemade hamburger bun. They're close, because making fit the guidelines. I still got to tweak them a little bit, but it's getting there. I think they're good, but I think it's still making better. So we're gonna get before the school year starts. Anyway, just a quick phone numbers, not including summer school, but the school year's got done. We served a total of 40,093 breakfasts, which is about 245 a day, and we served 54,752 lunches this school year, which is about 334 a day, and 514 adults. So almost 55,000 lunches in a school year for a school this size is relatively pretty good. Percentages are up compared to our school district size bigger. So we're looking at key numbers of free reduced meals. The students that are the most food insecure, all through grade 8, 55% of them about are eating our lunch, or 55% of those students. At the high school, 78% of the breakfast ones are the free reduced, and then 41 for lunch. So if you look at it that way, about 25,000 meals a day are going to students that may be their only meal for the day. So that's really important. Summer school did pretty well this year, so they're going a forward period. We had a lot of people came up the streets when they picked up their students day too, their little brothers, sisters, etc. We did 3,125 breakfasts, 4,564 lunches. 20-day period, that's pretty good. Equipment, got a new walk-in cooler, freezer at the elementary. Anybody seen it? The shell's done anyway. We just waiting on electrical to finish it now. So that'll be
Is
nice.
that a passive aggressive?
Yeah, we're getting there.
I'm scared.
In 6 weeks, you have no idea how hard it's working on a cooler freezer in one building. Oh, geez, I'm ready to jump up there and look at the electrical myself here pretty soon. But it'll be nice when it's done. We'll actually have nice, won't leak water on us when it rains. Actually have bright lights inside, so wait for that to get done. Then it's gonna power wash the shelves, stick them in, and we're ready to rock and roll on that. A couple little interesting water grant. We got a $1,000 grant for fresh local produce, which I'll be using this fall, so we're getting our apples from Rockridge Orchard at Edgar. We did last year, students really like, so they'll help us out the most. They bring them in bushels. I mean, students love the apples. They're literally signed some of our little kids' heads. That's how big these things are. They're just wonderful. We had a blind taste testing because our pizza vendor is he got a school, now officially has been on the school business, so, so we saw that on our Facebook, and Jason helped with that. Principals helped with it on tasting, so the students picked our new brands of pizza, so, yep, looking forward to that. Talked about some new items we got coming in for making, and, we are finalists for equipment grant too for our new milk cooler at our elementary school. We should find out by the end of the summer, they said. Just being in the finals is a pretty good idea, we'll probably get it, because usually if you get to that last step, you're more likely to win it. We're gonna usually get that final step. So
Who is the funding source for that?
that one is through the state, actually, UPI.
Okay,
They do it every year. I apply for it every year. We usually fall short because one of our numbers doesn't hit. We're not big enough, not enough free reduced students, etc. But we finished in finals this year, so everything went in, so it looks good. I would probably say 95% chance we're gonna win it, so we'll have that. That'll be nice. And then just a couple of things too. We're gonna bring back our infused waters this year. We had that right when COVID hit, and it kind of went away, and all sourcing and all that stuff. So, but I really want to get that up started too, because starting the following school year, if everything stays true and they don't change it to government level, grades all the way through 8th grade, there won't be chocolate milk available for kids anymore. They won't white milk for them. So I want to kind of transition students early, so maybe it won't be such a blow or such a shock to them. Plus, it's always been going to drink more water anyway, so somewhere. Any other questions?
Matt, can you touch briefly on, and I know you had reached out for Gordy's number
Oh,
down
yeah,
at Pittsville.
I talked to him. We're just set up time, hoping within the next 2 weeks to actually sit down face to face and talk about it. Once they get their deli and bakery, they want to get going too. It'll be more of a setup. So like, I want to order some like our fresh deli salad, something that will have high school, kind of go back and forth too, because he's still kind of figuring out his numbers, what they're selling. If we can help out, like even if we order our produce, like they may not sell a whole case of tomatoes because they're a small store, they're not gonna sell 80 tomatoes in 3 days to go back. But I can order a case in, we can split them, I'll deliver to them, work one-on-one with them. So we're just figuring out the logistics of that. He kind of still figuring out his numbers, what he needs every week, and then once they get their deli and bakery up, running and finished, it'll be more of a easy transaction too.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
You mentioned chocolate milk. What was the deal with that?
Starting, not this school year coming up, but the following school year, 24-25. They're bringing back the whole new regulation. They wanted to do this about 5 years ago, but when COVID hit, it kind of,
Who wants to do this?
DPI US did. So it kind of faded away, but now they're kind of bringing it back in, is they want to adjust sugar levels. So one of the main items is sodium. So all the way through 8th grade, we're going white milk available. Chocolate milk will be available in high school, but it's only going to be also non-fat, which is, to be honest, the taste of grapes. So not like significant anyway. Sodium levels is going to be difficult too, because there's a lot of items kids eat now that are going to go away because it doesn't fit. So I'm trying to be proactive and get new items in, and plus two, if more stuff I can make, I can adjust that too, and I have more control of what's going into it, so we should be fine that way too.
Have you been sharing any of the survey results that we had recently about the food and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I shared it with you too. He and I discussed this, Chris, is that how the kids,
Yeah.
and this was related to this discussion is, we saw a survey saying, can we look at the food?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of federal guidelines that restrict what we can offer as far as the sugar. What it comes down to is that.
They should run one of these.
Sugar is and then also now too, I mean, we all see at our grocery store,
Yeah.
food costs are just
Right.
insane, I'm gonna say, they're just out of the world.
But I like how you're readjusting it ahead of time.
The idea
This
is,
is a good idea.
because back when this all started, well, it was 2010, 2014 when I had me in, this was in the Cousy school system. I kind of got ahead the year before, so it's not as much of a shock to
Right.
students.
right.
If you just kind of dump everything on at once, then it's just good luck. And so,
Just curious, I mean, do the majority take the chocolate milk or the white milk?
that's faded off over the last year. Milk has kind of goes with ebbs and flows. You'll go a year where no one drinks milk. Then you have another year they can't get enough of it. It really flows. It does go down, has gone down over the last couple of years because chocolate milk used to do 1%. They made it so it has to be the whole non-fat skim. So there's like no fat and flavor. So if you're used to drinking like 2% chocolate milk from the store, this doesn't taste like chocolate milk, so you might not be used to it. So that's the big difference. But milk really is one of those things, you might have a school year where kids can't get enough of it. Like this last school year, really wasn't that big, but put more water out, do the flavored waters. Naturally, you can just fresh fruit and water and use it for the day. It gets more hydrated, that's always a winner too, so the byproducts of it.
I can tell you, the kids like the flavored water.
And then really warm days too,
Right.
with summer school I've been doing this year, we're doing flavored homemade lemonades. Give them that tie in, once we get in the fall, maybe do an apple cider day, just different things like that, just to kind of go with the themes right now.
You might have some leftover apples.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have our apple crunch day coming in October again this year, we get involved with, and the whole statewide chili. Well, last year it got canceled because we had a bunch of snow days, every time we had it set, there was another snow day, so statewide chili thing went away, but hopefully this year, we won't have a dozen snow days, so that won't hurt us again. Otherwise, besides that, everything is going well, got a full staff ready to go, just getting our kitchen ready for this year.
Is there anything against us accepting like local orchards donating apples or anything like that?
They donated, it's fine. Only issue I've ever had past with that is they've never been able to bring us the right amount or bring us stuff that there's not any way to process. Like it's way like, we don't have 20 people to take a whole weekend to process it down. If we could get stuff in, I'm more than happy to take it.
Where are we gonna find time to make all this homemade buns and stuff?
I've been doing it. I come in on the weekends a lot. So,
Obviously like to cook.
yeah, they keep ahead of it, so it works.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the audience?
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Okay, Dan.
So how's everybody doing? It's been a while. I'm not gonna touch on everything. I gave you a page and a half of stuff to look at. This is kind of the highlights of what went on for the year. Doesn't include a lot of the day-to-day, some of the stuff, a little bit, but. Matt touched on, we had a new stove put in the kitchen, but he also didn't touch on, there's a new combination of, they call it a combi oven. It's a steam and a convection oven, so it does a really good prime rib from what I hear.
And you can turn it on from your phone from home, so like.
It's connected to the internet, it's crazy.
And now you heard him say he's available on weekends.
Saturday prime rib.
Maybe stand next to the key fob, just run it on.
Right?
I do have to we did look at that after installing it, and with the steam that comes out of it, there's an actual vent kit for the back of it. We're gonna look at adding on to it to help get that steam up and out of the hood. Because it was steaming up the kitchen a little bit more than I liked, and I'm like, it's not a big add-on, we're just gonna take care of it, make it right. The other thing, Home of the Panther Pride sign, we used to have one on the back of the announcer's booth up there. Most people have seen it over time. That thing was starting to crumble in faith. We went to go take it down and it basically fell apart in our hands. It was made on scrap lumber, and the new sign we have now, Stratford Signs designed it for us. It's a metal sign that'll be going up here before football season so everybody can see it. It's just a matter of getting a couple guys out there. We have to use the lift to put it up there. It's a lot more stout than the other one.
And Dan, that and the scoreboard is being redone on the football field.
That's on the back page there.
But that's being paid for through the donation, the funding from that alumni donation from last year that I shared with the board. That was
I
given.
didn't know that.
Yep, the funding went to the music department and the athletic department she requested, so the majority of the funding for that sign and the scoreboard repair were paid for by a private donor that was an alumnus who wanted to donate that. So.
That scoreboard was getting faded over time from all the sun, and the letters were starting to peel on it and everything, so when it comes back, which should be in the next week or so.
By September.
I told them by the end of football, no, told them before football.
Is the sign, just in the future, is that a sign that our students could have made? Like, do
No.
we have the capability of doing?
There's a lot more to it. That sign's being refurbished. They're actually taking and they sandblasted the whole thing and took everything down. And they're repainting, redoing the undercoating on it, and then they're putting another seal coat on top of any of the vinyl letters and stuff like that. They might have been able to do that, but that's just too much to ask for those
Yeah,
guys.
that would have been an all-encompassing project that would be, because it was so large and with the scale of all the repairs that need to happen to the building.
And getting it taken down was another big thing too. They came in with the machine to take it down.
90%, yes, they could do signs for us. Probably 95% our group could do it. This would probably fall in that 5% range.
Yeah, I would have had to rent a truck to take that down. We had the security assessment done. We're still, as an admin team, we're still kind of evaluating that and seeing how we want to proceed with that. So I really don't have too much on that. We also did a few LED projects last year. The big one was the gym. I mean, that's just the way it worked out with that. It was easy to go in there and take care of the lighting in there. The gym project, we all know what went on there with the frozen pipes and everything. And as bad as that seemed, it was actually a blessing in disguise because we were only a couple of years away from spending between $40,000 and $50,000 to have that gym floor refurbished. And this way we spent, which I'm not proud that it's gonna make our insurance go up, I hate that. I'm sure it's gonna have some kind of effect, but $1,000 deductible or $1,500 was our deductible and that took care of the whole thing. I mean, we got a $275,000 project done. So, good luck, bad luck, depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, our insurance premium won't go up that much.
No.
I wouldn't think so, not in the grand scheme of things of what we have here for assets.
We've had very few claims in the last few years.
And like Matt said, the cooler freezer is being installed. We're waiting on the electrician. I think that's the only part we have left. They're supposed to be here this Wednesday. I'm hoping to get Matt going by next week sometime, so we can get in there. Not have to worry about me and worry about catching up. What else I got in here? We're starting to do estimates for our capital projects that we were looking at going forward. There's a few roofing projects. There's some equipment on the roofs that needs to be replaced. We're looking at some parking lot improvements that hopefully we can take care of down the road. So, and we have a Fund 46 for that, I believe is what it is. And hopefully we can get some of that taken care of.
That'll be a part of the strategic planning process under facilities is kind of showing up that list and prioritizing.
And I had a couple of retirements on the road. Sad to lose those guys, but it's been fun trying to find people to replace them.
You said there's fading and stuff on the Panther Pride.
It was almost to the point where you couldn't read what it said that was underneath it. It was getting pretty bad.
And the scoreboard also was fading, you said?
Yep, the sun beating down on those 3/4 of the day.
Had we not had this funding come in, is this something that?
It would have been on that list for later. She donated the money. Honestly, it was, when she made the donation, it was $8,000 and said, I'd like to see what the programs. We felt in that situation, we wanted to do it sooner rather than later when you have a donor so that they can actually see. And we actually informed her then, hey, here's what your donation is helping to fund. So yeah, that led directly to getting these projects done and then purchasing some instruments for the music department because of the donation from that donor.
Otherwise, you probably have to put that off a little bit.
Otherwise, it would have been on it would have been somewhere on the capital improvement list, certainly. Here's the thought too, most folks, when you have people on our campus, they may not even make it into the buildings. They see a lot of those things. And I had pointed out to Dan right after I got on campus last summer, I was like, can't even really, the Panther Pride sign is so faded and it's the first thing everybody sees coming in the parking lot. So that kind of rose to the top when the donation came in for this.
Well, and we were sad to see that go because that was done by a former art teacher and stuff. And it just, when we took it down, we tried to be careful. And as soon as we got it to the ground, it basically fell apart because of the materials they used at the time. They actually pieced together different plywoods that they had found, and it's like it was just rotted out from all the weather. It was not coated or sealed or anything.
You remember how long ago that was?
I don't know. 2000, was it around 2000 when they redid the Panther den, or 2012?
That's in the different field, but Jerry, that sign was up there on the previous one.
Okay, that I wouldn't know for sure then.
Think so? I guess around 95, 96.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's.
So was
They transferred that sign from the old building when they put up the new one?
Yeah, pretty sure, because I remember that one being at the football field.
That scoreboard was one of our original LEDs. I think when they redid the whole thing up there, they brought in, that was like first generation LED, so the components inside I can still get, so that's not a problem. I've had to repair a few things on it, but the outside was just so faded over the years, it was fine.
So everything, inner components and everything will be replaced.
No, just the paint.
Just the paint
Just
job.
refinished.
It's just cosmetic.
And when did you say that sign was put up?
The which one, the scoreboard?
About.
I,
10,000.
2000 when it was done with that.
99, 2000.
Yeah, so we got some life out of our stuff.
Yeah,
So.
but the first year we used it was 2000.
Functionally, it still works. It just didn't look very good.
Yeah, and what's nice is all of our scoreboards that we have in the district now are that digital, so the only controller that isn't compatible is the one for the softball field. But our ones for basketball in any of the buildings, and then the football one can all be swapped out if they need to. Controller goes down. So we stay along that line when we replace them all. Took us a while to get there, but
Any other questions for Dan?
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. And now it's Tabby and the Lewis Panthers.
Yeah, I don't have too much on there for like what happened throughout the school year. I mean, I was gone for a few months and then when I came back, I was in the classroom a lot, so that was a lot of our focus, was just kind of getting through the school year. For summer, we have pretty low numbers right now in like our smaller rooms, because we have a lot of teacher kids that take the summer off, so a lot of them are out. Now that summer school is done, we do have full preschool and school age rooms. And then our toddler room is also full, and then our infant one is just the one that's full right now. We've had another full-time hire of Callie. Right now, we're kind of seeing where she's gonna fit best. We're kind of playing around with which rooms and which teachers and to see where we're gonna put her. Right now, she's been working in the preschool with Erin, because we have Jasmine who is out on maternity leave all summer, so. Then we also have Vanessa Pilat, who's working with us. She just started, I think she's coming like 5 times now, just through the summer, and then she's planning to kind of do her capstone projects, come the school year. She'll be a senior this year. Looking at moving forward, we are looking at switching kind of how we're age grouping our classrooms, because of how the 4K is switching their days. We kind of have to strategically plan how we're gonna change our classrooms to accommodate that, because it does take a lot of our 4K preschool kids away when they're gonna be going to school full time. So what we're doing is we're going to adjust our age ranges. So our preschool room is gonna be more like a 3K rather than a 3-4K kind of thing. And then we're just gonna kind of shift some of our kids, because our biggest waitlist age group is that infant toddler age range. And that's where we have our lowest ratio. So we're trying to figure out how we can change those rooms so that we can still fill those classrooms up with, just different ages. So we were looking at trying to adjust kind of how our classrooms are lined up, because right now we have our toddler, our infant, our preschools in the middle, and then our school age room. And so we're trying to figure out a better way where it accommodates the more infants and toddlers, but also we were having issues with our preschoolers, and now having younger preschoolers in that middle classroom, we don't have access to bathrooms. We have to leave the classroom, use the bathroom, and then when we have these younger ages, it's very hard to go into the bathroom to help a 3-year-old, and then you have school age kids coming in and out. So it's just things like that that we're trying to think of, like how we can better utilize the space that we are allowed to use. So other than that, that's kind of what we just are kind of planning on, and then this is just our projected enrollment for the school year. Moving forward. So, no questions?
I have a couple. Do we have any kids on the waiting list currently? Or are we supporting everyone who wants to come?
No, right there, if you look, that is where it states currently. Go up a little bit. Right there, where it says currently we have 7 for infant, we have 4 on toddler.
What does that mean?
Those
are the people on.
Those are the age groups and the amount of kids that we have on the wait list. So we have 7 on our wait list for infant kids, which come fall, there's like a baby boom. So we have like, come fall, we have like all babies that are coming to start. So then when we do that, we're shifting out some of these older toddlers that we still have in our infant room, and they're gonna be moving. So we kind of like shift in certain time frames. So usually we do a shift like at the start of fall, and then we do another shift at the start of the school year, or the start of the year. and then we do another one at the end of the school year. So we kind of do like three.
That bullet point that starts with currently the 7 for infant, 4 for toddler, 2 for preschool, and 0 for school age is your wait list.
Yes.
Jab, does that include, so that 7 for infant, would that include the restructuring piece, or that would still, if you're able to restructure, would reduce that list? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes, that's just currently who's on our list right now. I'm still kind of, actually this week, I just started kind of going through and like, with the room changing, we're trying to figure out, I was trying to work with Tasha to just kind of see like what we could do. The one thing that gets tricky with that is, like our infant rooms, we need 2 sinks, we need double access to water. So that's where it gets kind of tricky, even if we would split a room, like we'd still, you either share, you know, it just gets kind of like looking at those kind of details, and it's more like a construction space. And also with like teachers, you know, we could divvy it, we could have 8 and 8, but then we would need 4 teachers for that each group. So it just kind of depends on that and how we're.
So that's my second question. So you're expecting 8 infant, 8 toddler, 16 preschool, and 15 school age before and after. That's what your projection is for fall. How many staff is that? Like how many staff do you have in your team?
Currently, well, we have weird summer help. Denzel's been helping us this summer, so I'm not gonna count him because he will be going back to school now. But we have currently 2 in our infant room, we have 2 in our toddler room, and I have 2 in preschool, and then I have the 1 that's on maternity leave. So we're not sure if we'll come here in school leave or not, depends on when she's back. So what was that? 6.
Plus yourself and Tasha? Or
That's just plus myself, that's counting Tasha. So we're still kind of looking for someone to replace her spot, because right now she still leads the infant room. And I still don't have someone to take over school age. Right now for summer, I've been utilizing Denzel, and he's been doing our school age kid along with another one of my teachers, because our infant numbers are low. We only need 1 teacher in that room. So I've been able to kind of like shift people around. That's kind of how we make it work. So depending on it, because each day is different. So we don't always have the same kids every day, especially like in school age and in preschool. Like sometimes those kids have, you know, different schedules. So, you know, if we have a lower number in this one, then we kind of shift people around to make them go here where they're needed. So it's a day-to-day job. I was like figuring that all out, but. Any other questions? Okay. I'm actually gonna sneak up with this. This is watching my youngest, and that's not a good combo.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 9, the consent agenda items. A, meeting notice certification. B, regular and closed session minutes of June 12th, the financial status, hirings for junior high girls basketball, maintenance, interventionist. Item E, resignations, assistant track, junior high football. I would entertain a motion. First of all, any questions about the consent agenda?
Just who is D3? There is nothing listed.
D3, interventionist literary poetry.
You want to talk about that?
We don't have any information who we're approving. There's nothing attached to the agenda. So is that being removed, or is there actually someone to present to us?
It just happened today.
Yeah.
So technically, I don't know, no, the contract was not signed yet.
But we have hired someone.
Yes.
She accepted her
Or she
position
accepted.
late this afternoon. Like we put it on the agenda because we need to get it on there.
I just don't want to approve I don't want to
Yeah.
make a motion to approve the
Heather,
consent
do you want to
agenda
talk
items
about
if that needs to get removed.
Heather, why don't you talk about Samantha? Just talk about her experience and resume.
As a candidate or the role of the literacy coach?
Her as a candidate.
Oh, okay. So Samantha Cum has 11 years' experience and a master's degree. I can't remember what school this is. Rice Lake, and she has a reading license, and that will help her with the literacy coaching part of it.
Raj, you were part of her reference calls. You want to touch base?
Well, yeah, the interview too, but she's fantastic, such an asset for our district. Having a half-time position, it'd be nice to have her full-time, to be honest. But I've done a lot of reference calls. People don't usually leave references of people who don't like them, so they all kind of sound the same. This is an amazing asset for our district. I got that other reference call, so I'm glad she's part of the team.
Is this a new role?
So this was the 0.5 that Kelly Michaels filled. It was actually a 0.42.
Oh, okay,
Kelly-
so Kelly's not going to be.
No, for family reasons, Kelly had to bow out for this upcoming school year. So we posted it instead of a 0.42. The 0.42 is actually fitting to Kelly's schedule. We posted it as a 0.5 because that's what fit within the budget.
So do you
And
have to accept her resignation?
she didn't sign the contract.
Okay,
She didn't, this happened before contracts were due.
Got
You
it.
caught me for a moment there. I'm like, yeah, she didn't accept it. She never signed her contract. So no, we don't have to. But, you know, I'm gonna use this selfless plug now that Rod put it in there, is that the reality is, as we'll talk about in the legislative update, the budget is still, we're starting to get a better picture of the budget. But as Rod said, this would be a position we would love to see if the budget would support it, be a full-time position. We're ecstatic to have it as a half-time. The reason it's listed as interventionist/literacy coaches, we're gonna determine based upon, we have Cindy's position, then we'll have Joan at a 0.5, and this is a 0.5 available for interventions. And we're gonna identify how many students need interventions, and then the idea would be, if we need to utilize that for interventions, we'll, but the rest of that time is gonna be focused on those tier 1 and tier 2 instructional components that a literacy coach would offer at the primary levels. So this person will focus on that early literacy piece, which is why we would love to, if the budget supports it, to have that as a full-time position eventually. So, does that make sense?
it does. So are we approving that or not approving?
I would like it to be approved. I'm hoping that that will suffice, the description of her qualifications, all background checks. The only reason that we were a little late was we didn't get it was like late this afternoon that she accepted the position. So that we can get her a contract issued.
So from a, Deb, do you know what the situation would be then from a legal perspective? And the school board filling its legal requirements?
No, you're fine, you can approve it.
We have the background check, we have all the materials required. It's all in place. It's just a matter of we can't issue the contract until the board.
Okay, and we don't have the minute because.
But we got it verbally, which I'm totally comfortable with, so that's fine with me. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, agenda item 10, discussion and action. First up. Okay. First up then, we have our school resource officer yearly report to the board. Jeremy, how many years have you been doing this now?
Let's see.
Third? Fourth?
This might be the 4th year.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of just went over what we responded to, what we worked with the school with, so. I did official in-person contacts, there's some unofficial, just make better decisions, stuff like that, but these are ones where, there's behavior that could be deemed criminal. We had 16 in the high school, 5 in elementary school. Went over the nature of the requests were harassment, bullying, sexting, underage sexual activity, vaping, truancy, we had a weapon issue with a knife, exposing minor to pornography that was on a bus, destruction of property, disorderly conduct with motor vehicle. Did juvenile referrals to Wood County Human Services, 4 of them, 2 for truancy, 1 for the underage sexual activity, 1 for exposing minor to pornography. So once we get the juveniles, we were 4, 2 human services for the crime they committed. And then they go into the juvenile justice system, and human services works with the family, getting resources to the child. Sometimes maybe the child does get, in severe cases, they do get a punishment. So issued 9 citations, 4 for truancy, which for the truancy side, it's really hard because you issue them and it's a mandatory appearance for the parents, before the kid and the parents come in. And like for one group, they did a heck of a job talking to the judge and ended up getting the citations dismissed. So we try to work with them. You know, the citation is the last thing we like to do. We like to work with them, get them here, see why they're not here. Sooner or later it comes to, we have to issue it. We had some underage tobacco, that's the vaping. In my 4 years here, we've only had 1 issue with a THC cartridge being in a vape. That was 3 years ago, I think. Otherwise, it's been tobacco, nicotine pods. Destruction of property, that was an issue with a set was broken on the stage. And then disorderly conduct of motor vehicle. I mean, this kid wants to squeal his tires. And one of those things. So me and Mrs. Kristoliak, we put out the Speak Up, Speak Out app. We did a presentation to the students, let them know about that app that's available to them. It's a really nice one, they can do it anonymously.
Yeah, can you explain what the purpose of that
The purpose of it is, so it's same as like the P3 apps, the Crime Stoppers. It's the exact same program, but it's based on the school, so that kids can report it. It doesn't have to be an issue that's happening in Pittsville. It could be if they have a friend going to Marshall School District, they can report it. So then it's manned 24/7. So when the tip's put in there, someone takes it and they notify the admin, and then we can respond accordingly.
Okay, and so the tips relate to threats against the school?
It can be,
Any,
it can be
Anything,
drug
okay.
use. A child getting abused at home, suicide,
okay,
thoughts, threat assessment, can be for that too.
okay.
Jeremy?
Making a threat.
Do you have a partnership with Crime Stoppers with their program also?
We do it, Crime Stoppers kind of took a little hit for a little while because the guy who was leading it, law enforcement wise,
Yeah.
he left and went, Fort Edwards, but it's kicking back up here. But this has worked out really well because, email, text me directly, I can respond and coordinate. Mrs. K does a really good job of when it's high school related. She gets an email and she's instantly interacting with that person, the operator at the call center. We had 3 referrals, not gonna go into great detail about them, but it was a self-harm one. One was a movie and show pirating.
It's punishing by that.
Another one was a vague threat. So I did presentations to staff and students, started the year with one to the staff, introduced them to myself, went over the active threat response that we do. Students, we did the 7th and 8th grade Speak Up, Speak Out reporting app. There's this lady who came in a couple years ago and asked if we'd be interested in, the police would be interested in reading books to school students, certain grade levels, and it covered certain things. And they actually go around, those books are all sponsored by local businesses. And the kids love it, they get a free book, I come in and read it to them. We get the 1st grade one, that book was on character, 4th grade was on values. And 9th graders, in case everyone doesn't know, through the school I got certified. This is probably, Mr. Figueroa, told me to do it. And because now all WIA coaches have to be first aid, CPR, AED trained. So I'm a certified instructor through the Red Cross. So I'll go in and help Mr. Rayburn with his 9th grade health class and do a little informal, show him the basics of CPR and AED training. They don't get certified, because that costs the district quite a bit, but they have the basic skills to help save a life. Then I do the driver's education class. Big thing I go over with all these new drivers is the traffic laws, because some of them, they don't know certain laws. I didn't realize that was a big one. Someone riding the truck, but they gotta be over 16. And then I go over distracted driving, big one, especially with the newer drivers. They don't have that experience behind the wheel. So go over all of it. Keep your phones down, kind of give them a little warning that, I know everyone in here, you get your license soon, so I'm only gonna be on that probationary for the first 6 months. So I'm gonna be watching. If you got a bunch of people in that car and you're driving, I know you're only supposed to have a family member there. Give them a little heads up. And then 8th grade, we go over social media use. Let them know that everything you put out there, it's there for life. And I talk to them, kind of give them, tell them about, I've had the right warrants for Facebook, Snapchat. And they think, they delete that photo on Snapchat. It's gone in 24 hours now.
Yeah.
Even if someone does a screenshot of it, it's on their servers still. I go over sexting and all the dangers of that. So we had a student intern, probably one of our best ever. It's Haley.
Yes.
It was nice. She was definitely our best one, because this was one I know is going into law enforcement. She had a passion for it, and she was constantly wanting to learn stuff. And we did 7 student job shadows. I take all of them that want to do it, because when you get into law enforcement, the numbers are lower and lower. So anyone who's interested into it, I try to sell them on it. And I also try to sell, if you do an internship through us, that means you got to work for me part-time for a year. Because we have a hard time getting people to apply and stay with us. There's just some notes from the year. There was every year it gets better and better working with the students. They're so comfortable. That first year I was here, you could tell, first 6 months, you do that double take when you see an officer in the building. Now they know you're there. They're totally comfortable with you, which is great, because they're comfortable with law enforcement now. I know the county does plenty of walkthroughs too. We got a lot of county officers that been in the school district, which is awesome. We got state patrol lives in the school district, so I think our school kids are very comfortable with law enforcement. Big thing I like to try to do with my SRO position is I coach numerous sports, so I have a lot of contact with those athletes that play. So I like to try to contact the ones who they're not in a sport, they're not in something, just talk, see how they're doing. A lot of them don't want to talk to you that much, but towards the end of the year, they're fine with it. They talk to you, they open up more. I also encourage them to get involved in the sport or any extracurricular activity, anything in the school, just get them involved. Because that's big. Just go down a little bit. Getting them involved just so they feel connected to the school. Like I just went to that school resource officer conference in Appleton. That's the biggest thing you see, and all these kids that was acts of violence that occurred at school, there's no connection. They weren't connected to any other students, no staff. The biggest thing I see is positive, like our staff, everyone on campus, the food service, the custodial, they do a great job of connecting with kids. If no one gets left behind, if someone's struggling, I think the staff does a great job of identifying that and trying to help that student. So I really like that, and that's where I see the greatest thing that's happening here. And I work well with staff, the principals. I think we, over the years, me and Mrs. Friday have been working together for the whole time in the SO program, and Dr. Watson came into it. And I think we've gotten pretty good at handling situations. And identifying, if there's an issue, or maybe pre-identifying one. Like we have a handle with care system where if anything happens in the city, I check the ladder so I can notify teachers and admin beforehand that, hey, this student had law enforcement contact. I even check the county because they don't really do it as much, so I make sure like I mean our school district, our students are accounted for so we can alert them, maybe a kid, mom and dad had a domestic. So they seen that, so they might be coming into school amped up or maybe a little down, so we can help them out while they're here. And I think our ESSA program has been extremely beneficial and successful in keeping our students safe and the school safe and now having a positive experience at school. I know a lot of people have liked it and I like it a lot. I'd rather be in here than driving around the squad by myself. And the impact it has, you can see it.
Can I comment from the high school perspective? So first of all, I never heard you talk this much. It's very impressive. But so my last district, which I love, I don't mean any disrespect for anybody there, but they use the school resource officer as a hammer. Behave, or we'll call the guy with the uniform or the gal with the uniform, and usually it's too late at that point. Someone's getting a ticket. The cop's gonna win, the kid's gonna get in a ton of trouble. Very public arrests happening, embarrassing kids forever. And it's just too late. Part of it was the way the district used them, calling them at that point. What I see with Chief Dewar is that because he's got a relationship and he's got some natural skill, a lot of natural skill with kids, that what they need is somebody to care for them, and they need somebody to distract them from what's really upsetting them at that moment. And so the way that Jeremy will just also talk about landscaping instead of that, bad behavior to show in the hallway. We all know you're escalated. So when he went through the numbers earlier, it might look like he was busy like 15 times last year. Of course not. There are so many incidents that could have been on there if he would just be reactive instead of proactive. What I appreciate about working with him is that you see that and realize that like we can de-escalate this. This doesn't have to be a big thing, and it doesn't hurt that you're huge. But that I think that relationship. I see that relationship is so important. I've learned a lot from working with you. So you're doing a great job, and of course we got to keep working on the truancy thing, but it's a wonderful program.
I've got a statement and a couple questions. First of all, I think that a lot of what you do sometimes gets overlooked. It just happens in the background, and you're an absolute huge benefit to this district. You're like the ideal person that we need in this school doing exactly what you're doing, and I guess we can't thank you enough. I think you hit on it, but has your duties here been any type of hindrance to your regular daily duties?
Not at all. The benefits of me being in here 3 days a week, 3 to 4 hours, far ways. If there's an emergency, like even just a driving complaint coming into town, I hear it, I'll leave.
Yeah.
She comes on for an hour, I come back and make that hour up sometime during the week. Like I always fit in here 9 to 12 hours, and there's never been any issue with. I'm in the center, school's in the center of town, if something happens emergency wise, I'm in a perfect spot. I can get either in town in 2 minutes.
That's great to hear. Has there been any talk about bringing the bike rodeos back?
Yeah, we're working on it. Fire department kind of is backing out of it, so I have to kind of take it over and try not to step on any poles.
Okay, they've been doing it then.
Fire department always kind of started it, and then there was a collaboration. And then with the COVID year, kind of took a back seat.
Okay.
It's still.
I just had some people ask me about that, and I thought we had time to ask you.
The plan is that I was trying to work on doing it.
And
I wanted to see if the fire department wanted to do it with, but we might just end up doing it ourselves in May. But it's kind of funny that they have, pretty sure Bike Awareness Month, it's in October. I don't know why it's not like.
Yeah, so they can forget about everything.
It's gonna start snowing.
Yeah.
I remember the bike rodeo.
Yeah.
Yes, we will keep bringing
I'm
it
just
back.
curious, I don't want to create any more work for you, I just have had some people ask me about it. And have there been some previous talks, I guess for both you and superintendent, about outside agencies obtaining access keys for the building. Because I had a deputy ask me, any word on when we're gonna be getting our entry keys? And I'm like, okay, well, I could check that out.
Yeah, we've been working with Captain Hoosager on it.
Yeah,
It's the approvals there, it's just a matter of the.
yeah, and I think I think the ball's in his court right now. I think
In whose court?
in Charlie.
Charlie's
It
District.
comes-
Because I
fob,
think
we gave them, was it the fob or the card first that they were having trouble with the access?
Well, yeah, we tried to put it on the card we already had.
Yeah, on their
So
existing cards.
now it's just a matter of
It's just
getting
logistics.
cars to where we need them.
Their county too might have to get involved.
Yeah.
They have their own ID badges, a lot of them try to put.
Yeah.
The approvals there to make it happen from our end, as far as it's getting it to work with their.
Yeah,
we
we
have.
have-
Honestly, it's something that I probably have to, I mean, I'm in this area all the time.
We had, when the request was put in, we had no problem with, that's a good thing, having additional
Yeah.
officers. As Jeremy said, we have probably the highest per capita law enforcement residents in the country.
You'd like to, or just on a card, you wouldn't want to carry a separate card.
Well, I've got a couple cards I keep in my pocket for different places. I've got a couple fobs in my car.
Yeah, the fallback was gonna be new fobs, like, we can get them these fobs, but we were trying to make it more efficient for them, so that would be on their existing cards, and that's kind of what that holdup was. So, but yeah, it's approved. Can I wanna make one quick comment, because both Chris and Rod touched on it. The person is more important than the position when it comes to SRO, and I would echo what both of them said, is that, and I'm not trying to give Jeremy a big head, he's the perfect person for this position. Ideally, it'd be absolutely, if you were to draw up what an SRO should look like, Jeremy is it, and that's what makes this position so successful, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Let's go on to, item B, strategic plan. Jason, can you please take it from here?
So, as I stated earlier during my district administrator update, what I'm looking for from the board tonight is I'm looking for approval of the vision and mission statements, and then our 5 pillars that are kind of those broad pillars. I'd like you guys to kind of just, this isn't the first time you've seen this, I've been sharing this with you through the process. So that we can then proceed with the goal setting underneath those umbrellas. We've been kind of on a holding pattern, because we obviously don't want to start filling in goals and action steps before we have approval from the board that these pillars and the mission and vision will be something we move forward. But once we have that, what we'd like to do is update our vision and mission statements on our website and on all of our literature. So we have our new mission and vision statement, and then start working under the pillars to get those goals set and stuff. So that's more or less what I'm looking for from the board tonight, would be approval of this base plan so that we can get working on the details, the team and the staff. So I can field any questions, and I know Chris was on the committee as well. We can answer any questions. We did add, did we get that updated piece in which one was the one about the citizenship, Deb? Because I want to make sure.
It's not there.
It's not there, so I want to make sure we have an addendum on that, because it would be, it was under pillar 1.
Yeah.
And it would be,
College, career, and community.
in community ready we added community to that, because that was discussed by the strategic planning committee, that we felt it was very important to have that citizenship component, and it was missed coming out of the last strategic planning piece. We caught it, so that would, what would be added in there is community ready, along with college and career, would be the only change to what you see. I think that was something we felt was important and was identified during the surveys and the feedback sessions. Can you address any questions the board may have?
I just have one thought.
Mhm.
Under finance and facilities, it seems like the financial piece, the way I read this, the financial piece is really tied to brick and mortar, the effective learning spaces and quality facilities. But the financial piece includes much more than facilities. It includes the educational budget also. And I'm wondering if that can be incorporated in there some way.
Absolutely, the board can make some suggestions as far as that, and I agree with you completely as far as like staffing falls underneath that. that component, so we absolutely could make some amendments to those components, because that won't change the, the integrity of it, what was intended, because that was certainly discussed by the group.
So maybe
Would it be an amendment?
resources by creating, I don't know if effective learning spaces, and I mean, that could, I'm hearing on wordsmithing, could potentially be deleted and indicate responsible with our resources by creating effective staffing, materials. I mean.
Well, let's
yeah.
look down at the people and culture, because I know, and I agree with you, what you're saying is there's a fiscal component to that, so maybe we can wordsmith some stuff from the pillar 5 about the recruitment and retention of staff, is what I kind of feel that would be. Principals, feel free to chime in here if you have any feedback.
Just seems like the concern is met with the 5th point.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or comments?
And this is a living document. We'll get tired of hearing you say that, so that changes can be made, and I feel that we're in a good place here.
Okay, and I'll let you review this is for information, is that correct? Or is that for approval?
This would be for action.
This
for approval.
is for, okay, this is for action.
I'll make a motion to approve with the addition of the word community under
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. So we'll be back in September with a list of action steps and goals.
Sounds great. Okay, high school textbook adoption. I would like to ask Dr. Watson to answer any questions that people have.
I could give a little background if you wanted.
That would be great.
The College Board is fairly prescriptive on these things for AP classes, and so they give you a list of books to choose from. The bio book was chosen by our new teacher. Her cooperating teacher teaches AP, and she's highly effective. That's what she gave her syllabus and said this works. So then Hope dived into it and looked at the AP website and what it provides. And she's just a big fan of the biology books. Our biology books are really out of date. The last 2 teachers haven't even used them. And usually a good lesson plan in science doesn't involve looking up facts on Google. So it is nice to have a classroom reference set. No one says learning science from a textbook is super exciting either, but having a basis in scientific knowledge that is credible is good. That book is a tome. It is enormous. That's why it's over $100. But one benefit, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, of our hyper-partisan society right now is that AP classes, when they come up for textbook adoption, you can then see what community concerns are because people are bringing those forward. So I looked at both of these to find out, are they slanted? Are they biased? And one reason why they're both so big is that they include everything to try to avoid that because they want to get as many subscriptions as possible. And I haven't seen concerns for either one of these books in that way. And given that neither of the books will be the sole text used anyway, because AP provides lots of other resources, mainly primary sources and things, I recommend both of them. The government book Mr. Belanti found from the College Board website as well. So the college, you have to get your syllabus approved by College Board, and they not only want your textbook listed, they want what parts that you're going to use, how it's going to be assessed. It's a lot different than the regular one. What's unfortunate with that one is that we do have a new textbook for civics. It doesn't work for AP. For bio, if this book works, we can use it for regular, and the books don't go home. We don't send these 1,000-page textbooks home unless it's, and they can check it out and go and study. So then that book, which we're getting 10 to 15 copies of, because this class is pretty popular, we can use for regular bio next year. Just wouldn't decide as much.
So you've had your hands on these books? You have not?
No. They're so expensive, Chris. And so I have looked at older versions of them, but if we're gonna buy them, I want ones that are fairly up to date. I don't need the ones printed yesterday. But I went through the older versions of them, and they look like, most textbooks look almost the same now. They're giant magazines with tons of information on them. They both look like they're gonna cover every piece of material we need to meet.
And there is a list, Dr. Watson, that College Board puts out of textbooks that we can pick from the list for each AP class, right?
And you guys know, if you all know how the textbook industry is, they're down to about 3 or 4 companies that are really doing this now, and they are making money hand over fist. And so there's not a lot of options for these things, and these are both going to get the job done. Neither is going to be the curriculum for the class. We don't do a curriculum based on textbooks. Textbooks are resources for it.
If we were to go full-time for all of them next year, how many more books would we need next year?
Classroom size 25. So, but we don't need more government books. We just need to add 10 more biology books. And you'd want a couple extra, you know. But.
And what were we operating on then if we didn't have this? Just the
We would
curriculum without it, right?
We can't run these classes. Those classes, they have to cancel. AP won't let you teach that at the textbook.
So we need to have these books in order to run these AP courses.
That's correct. Absolutely.
So I'm assuming when these books do come in, you're probably gonna be diving into them.
I am.
Well, I mean, like, you're probably gonna, I guess, our instructors or our teachers will be looking into them. And reporting back to you.
Yeah, they will. I went through the AP US History one that Mr. Pio recommended. All the textbooks start to look the same after a while. And I'll definitely look at them. I'm curious about them, but, they're 1,100 pages each, so.
And the syllabus will be listed, the classroom syllabus will have a list of the components of it.
It will, and I can even share hopes with you. She's already written hers because she's so excited to start teaching this stuff.
So if they're that big, I mean, how does a student get, what's the encouragement for the student to dive into those books?
It's quite often, that's a really good question. It's quite often a matter of like an AP class, they're trying to get the skills of like scientific analysis down. And so they'll be reading different chapters. And so in small groups, we're looking at this scientific concept from chapter 3, you're looking at chapter 2, we're gonna share with each other, or they're not teaching that you couldn't, it's an 18-week class, you couldn't teach it, you wouldn't even wanna try to teach 1,100 pages, but it gives you a ton of options for which areas to focus on. There's also lots of articles and dives into certain scientific issues in there too. But the syllabus that she's got from her cooperating teacher already has picked like the essential areas need to be focused on. And there is a lot of reading in both these classes. So there'll be time in both classes where the kids are reading this, and there'll be time where parts of it are sent home too. We're not buying the online version, I want to bring that out. These companies will try to sell you the whole thing. And the online versions, I bought it before, I bought them last year for the civics book. They're just, the teachers don't know how to get to them. So you end up spending $500 a license and you're not getting it. So it's not a good investment.
Is it $500 a license for a 1-year license?
Yeah.
Yes. This is your upfront, you pay the cost, but we'll have.
And then you just get a bill the next year because it's automatically renewing. So it's crazy. There's a lot of automatic renewal in the business right now, software stuff it's just going out. So I'm trying to avoid that because if it's not adding value for the kids and they're not reading it at home, then we don't need to do that. But I also, just for the record, I don't want teachers teaching from Google. Like you're going
or Wikipedia.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's where Google will take you. And like, let's go look up the scientific issue on Google. I don't know what kind of source you're finding, but that's financial compensation. That's the textbook is also that way, but their model is based on being accurate, not based on being popular. So there's nothing perfect about the textbook industry, but these books are the best there are in these two areas.
Yeah.
So, for instance, a student takes AP biology and they get this large book handed to them. There's other books that they're going to have access to, or do they get issued? Do they get issued these books?
No.
Or are they just going to read them?
They're on the shelf in the classroom. We don't send them home. Very seldom, unless they can check them out to take them home to study. That's what they did for the AP US History book last year a lot. But they're just too expensive, honestly. The kids, if they lose them, they owe us a ton of money. And so And there are other sources, particularly in government, because it gets out of date as soon as there's another election, right? So then we're doing a lot of news research.
That's why I don't like the word.
I just wanna make sure that we're utilizing this large book,
We will.
because, you know, it is a lot of money. We can't have the class unless we have the book.
Yep.
So then, like, the teacher will be picking sections out of the book for these students to maybe focus on this for this day or week. So they need to read into this chapter. So that teachers, you're gonna have to become very informed on what's all in that book.
And I'd be happy to share the syllabi with you guys too. But one nice thing, when you do textbook adoption for dual credit or AP, that's the classes you can feel good that they're following, that they have to, because they're not in charge of that. It's run by different organizations, and so if they're not gonna stay accredited. It's different than the classes where they're in charge of their curriculum. But Hope's got her syllabus. I'd be happy to share that with you guys so you can see what area she focuses on. The Dean is working on his AP government, we'll get that one approved too. But all the syllabi are posted on our website and open to the public to see, and I'd be happy to share it individually as soon as we fish for it, if you guys want to see what areas they focus on.
And that'll show you all the resources that are used in the class.
And that's absolutely that's board prerogative to see that stuff. We're up.
I like it.
So are you suggesting 15 copies of each?
I have 10 to 15 of biology based on enrollment. We like to have 2 extras on the shelf, and then 5 to 10 of government.
Okay.
I believe the price tag was somewhere around $3,000.
For all of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All of them at the tops, 15 and 10?
Whatever I sent you, Jason, it was,
I don't have it memorized, to be honest with you.
I believe
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we went top end for our estimate.
Yeah.
Well, we have to know how many students are in the class, right?
All you guys have to approve is us using this as our textbook.
Using
The numbers,
Just because.
because even if I bought 10, another kid enrolls in September, I buy another book. You guys
Yeah.
approve the numbers, you know where.
Sure, right, that's your job.
Oh, I see, so you can only buy as many students as we have for students.
Just
And if we needed it,
Yeah.
then you'd buy another.
because they're so expensive and because this budget, we're way into the fiscal year.
Very good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
We're gonna be reallocating funds currently because the budget's already been proposed. So this isn't gonna be an added, we're kind of moving some funds around.
We're not gonna mow the yard anymore for a while.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of the textbooks for the
Thank
following new courses, AP Biology and AP Government as presented by Dr. Watson.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. It's required. We need it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the 2 textbooks. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to,
Thank you.
moving on to agenda item D, contract addendum language for hard-to-fill positions.
Can we pull that up, Deb? Is that? Thank you.
Jason, could you take us through this?
Yep. So this is something that Pam and I drafted. So you've heard me discuss repeatedly over the course of last year that there are areas, not just in Pittsville, but hard to fill positions, just in general, there's less people going into education. And as a smaller district, and with the housing issues that we have, we deal with some challenges. So this proposal was something we wanted to bring about that would help with kind of a grow your own type process for filling these hard to fill positions. So 2 examples I would give you is like the LMS position or the EL coordinator position, those types of positions. If you have a staff member who's interested and qualified that wanted to go back and earn those certifications, frankly, without us having some ability to maybe say, listen, you're gonna serve the district and our students, so we're gonna help you with those costs associated with getting that certification for those hard to fill positions. But then there's also the piece of, we're a district who we have limited resources. We don't want to pay for that and then have someone jump ship a year from now, and we just paid for a certification for someone who's going to go to Rapids. So we drafted this language as a way to kind of address both of those concerns, and it's a sliding scale to say, listen, we value you, we want you to go back and do this, but there's going to be some component that's going to, we'd like to keep you here. So every year they stay with the district, up to 6 credits per year, our proposal would be that we would pay for that certification. But if they left prior to being here for 4 years, they would have to reimburse the district a percentage of the cost to get the certification, is effectively what this is. So it kind of covers our basis. What we like to think is this: if you're gonna stay in Pittsville for more than 2 years, we're gonna kind of hook you. You're gonna want to stay here because you're gonna love the community and the people and the kids. So we want to keep people here for a few years, and we feel like then they're gonna stay here for the long term. So that's the language and what this would kind of entail, and it would be for hard to fill positions. For the statute, if you were gonna ask us, well, what's a hard to fill position? It depends, right? There are some that I could very easily identify to you that these are gonna be positions that those ones I mentioned are hard to fill. Like you are, it's like finding a unicorn to find some of the folks to fill these positions. We were very fortunate with Ms. Galvan to have her be a business owner in the community and fill that EL position. She's gonna have to make a significant investment to go back and get the EL certification right now, right? So we would like to, entice her to stay with the district, because I'll be frank with you, that position, if she were to leave, we would have a hard time finding a replacement to fill that position. So that's kind of the overview of this. So I would open it up to any questions.
So for 4 years, okay, what if it takes them 6 years to get their certification? Say it's a 24 credit certification, they take 3, we're covering 4 years. Is this a sliding scale?
It is a sliding scale. That's a good question, Rick. And one thing I would tell you is that with the way licensure works, as far as getting like emergency licensure for staff, you have to make adequate progress to maintain that licensure. So the reason we went with 4 years is typically, unless there was an exceptional circumstance, they would complete their certification. Most of these programs are 24 credits or less that would be these certifications. So the anticipation would be if a staff member chooses not to do the 6 credits per year, like if they say, hey, listen, too many things are going on, I'm gonna do 3 credits. I'm not saying we would say no to like a 5th year, but it's like kind of like we need you to get the certification. That's kind of our role in it, is we want you to finish it.
But we're not putting, you must get this in 4 years.
No.
We're saying, thank you for going and getting.
This is something we're offering to you for 4 years, 6 credits per year for 4 years to reimburse you to go back and get these certifications. Yeah.
So I love this idea, and I'm totally cool with and think it's great that we would support people to expand. I'm not a huge fan of the percentages and kind of how this is laid out, because someone could literally get their first 12 credits paid for and only have to pay us back 50%, but we didn't get any benefit from that because they weren't even certified. And so I would propose that we'll pay up to 4, as an example, I would be more comfortable with, we would pay up to 4 years, 6 credits a year, and then you must stay 2 years or 3 years after you get your certification, or you have to pay back the whole thing. So not even a tiered approach, because the whole goal in this is to get it for you so that you stay.
Yeah.
And if they stay, I'm cool with us paying for all of it. But if they don't stay, I don't think we should pay for any of it.
We have similar contracts in our line.
We do too.
And it's all enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and my other comment, because this is a draft, is I would prefer to start with a positive approach as opposed to, well, you'll have to pay back 75 or 100%, and going down. I could see it as, okay, if you stay 4 years or if you stay 6 years, you don't have to pay anything back. If you stay 5 years, you have to pay 20% back. I don't know. If you only stay 4 years, yeah. But looking at it from that perspective, as opposed to the, okay, you gotta pay this back, you gotta pay this back, you gotta pay this back. I'd rather start with.
We actually want to pay it so you have no out of pocket.
Right.
Yes.
We just want that because we've done it, that you are then invested and you're actually going to stay and use that certification for us, or all we'll be doing is cycling people through to get their certifications.
Right.
So remind me of what we have in place right now, as what do teachers have in place? Do they have some type of reimbursement at all for
There is nothing in contract language for teaching staff right now for reimbursement for credits. Correct? I don't believe there is. There used to be, Chris, when you said that would be tied to you had to take so many credits to get a raise. That kind of shifted post-Act 10, where a lot of districts went away from that, and then they stopped paying for those credits. So the only thing would be when you went to the master's level, you would move over to the master's lane when you attained your master's degree, but the district doesn't offer that for anybody who would just go generally take credits. That's not offered. And that is something, that we discussed here. This would be for those positions that are hard to fill, and those, those ones that we're just not gonna get applicants with that grow your own piece and stuff, so.
I know that you brought up the point of, if your question is what is hard to fill mean?
Yeah.
But how do we regulate this? I mean, how do we say, and who decides this position qualifies for the hard to fill definition? I mean, because quite honestly, if we pass this, we won't, I don't know, the applicant numbers just came down now for this course. You just decide that now it's considered a hard to fill spot and it qualifies? So I don't know, maybe we should have something in place whereas some form of, I don't even know how you would go about it. But it just seems to me like we should have something structured to meet certain qualifications, at least minimum qualifications.
So I understand what you're saying, and you are correct in that right now, when you ask who would make that decision, it would be me. It would be something that I would make a determination along with the administrative team for a position. Here's the problem with putting something like here's the parameters. It's one of those things like, what does this look like? I don't know how to describe it, but I know it when I see it, like those certain positions I listed. I don't know if we can draft language. I wouldn't be opposed to it. That would encompass everything to the point where I wouldn't have to come back and ask the board to make a change, if that makes sense.
That's what I'm trying to say, because you don't want to keep having to ask us.
No.
Because you just look and say this qualifies.
Yeah.
Just based on ABC.
Like, I'll tell you this right now, Chris, great example. Like we are very fortunate we filled the choral position here. If we would have got to the point where we had someone who was like, I am interested in going back and getting my music certification, I would be telling you absolutely right now, I would be like, that would qualify in this situation to pay for that certification.
And I completely understand. Like I said, I don't know how else you would do this. It's just that what happens if something happens where we need a different superintendent next year? And now
It's a coincidence, it's something that might not be too. Is it happening, you bring that up?
Listen,
I understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry to put it this way, but things can happen, and God forbid, but I'm just saying, here, it almost feels like it's just left out there, and we don't have any type of grading scale to get to, at least a qualification.
Well, it is part of it if you advertise for a position and you don't get applicants, or I'm thinking of the career and technical education thing. Let's say you got a person who has a bachelor's degree in construction management, but they don't have teaching certification. They would have to go back and get the teaching certification.
So here's what I would propose to the board, because of the questions I'm hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
This is not like this has to be approved tonight. Like it would have been, we have some situations where I can make some suggested changes and do a little more research for the board, and we'll bring it back in August. Okay, so I'll take some of this input. I'll do a little research, see what some other districts do. One thing I would say is, I had experience in one of my former districts with using it where we had hard to fill language where we listed if there's 2 or fewer applicants for a job. Well, I would tell all of you would probably experience, sometimes you can get 2 applicants that it doesn't matter, you could get 10 where you're like, I wouldn't hire these people to walk my dog, right? So it's not about just the number of applicants. So we did give that some thought, but I'll draft something, we'll go back to the drawing board.
And something with costs, so I like an idea of what it would cost for each one of the full 4 years.
Costs keep going up.
Yeah, I can give a good ballpark.
Maybe something to help clarify a little bit. If a regular classroom teacher like switches grade levels or even subject areas, they don't have to get credits to do that. They work in the district for the 6 semesters and now they're licensed in that area. This is only for like a speech and language, like a
School
specialist
site.
position or, what's the other one? Like a reading teacher that needs a reading license. So all the other changes in the school,
Well, that helps.
that it doesn't require this.
Okay,
It's someone in our district already that we're asking to move and cover some.
because I'm thinking this right away, I'm thinking, you know, we got 2 or 3 different teachers that are hired at the same time. Well, one qualifies for this and the other one says, but you know, my position, there wasn't much interest in, you know, and now you have to answer the question why you made that determination, one or over the other.
Yeah.
But this way you can say, it met this qualification, yours did not meet A or B or C or whatever. It's a fairness thing too, so.
This would be more designed for grow your own program, like where we're looking for existing staff that are interested in filling this hard position. But I have some good ideas in my head and we'll bring that.
We'll table
Okay,
this.
thank you. Yes, let's, bring this back.
Okay.
Bring this back at
I
the
like
next
the
meeting.
idea.
Okay, let's go on to, we have some,
We'll move the table.
do we have to move to table it? No, okay,
No, just don't take action on it.
just don't take action. Okay, now we have some, policy updates. Second reading and approval of updates to policy 411, equal education opportunities, 411 exhibit, 411 rule, student discrimination complaint procedures.
I'll make a motion to
No
approve
changes.
policies 411, 411 exhibit, and 411 rule.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter F, approve updates to policy 313 exhibit, the annual notice of academic standards.
I'll make a motion to approve updates to policy 213.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approve the following notice to parents and guardians of students, number G. Quote, pursuant to section 18.30 paren 1G paren A and chapter 120.12 paren 13 paren B of the Wisconsin State Statutes. The Pittsville School District officially adopts the Wisconsin academic standards that have been approved by the school board policy 313 exhibit and will be in effect for the 23-24 school year. If someone wants to just say, I so move, they don't have to repeat all this.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11, the legislative report. Jason sent out the blog posts. I don't know if people had an opportunity to take a look at them, but the governor signed the budget into law with numerous partial vetoes. You know, overall, there is an increase of $1.2 billion in the universal budget for K-12, which is a good thing. There's also an increase in the, per pupil level of state support. The governor did an interesting thing with his partial veto. He, he put into statute $325 per pupil increases for the next 400 years, which is kind of interesting. And you have to remember that one legislature can change something that another legislature does.
Right, so
So-
400 years means nothing.
So 400 years
Effectively,
means
no.
nothing.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, some other highlights, special ed reimbursement is up to 33%, which is great. You know, the other thing that's really good for the Pittsville School District is the PAC has increased for regular transportation aids and high-cost transportation aids, as well as the rate for transporting students more than 12 miles to and from school.
That's
So
a big one for us.
that's huge, as well as full funding for the state's sparsity aid program. So that's really, really good news for us. You know, the Fiscal Bureau has to slice and dice all these things, and then revenue puts it into their big formulas related to assessed value and equalized value, and spits out final numbers in October.
So many good things for us, in this budget currently right now. So,
Yeah, the big picture is good for public education, but again, we won't know the specifics as to how it affects the Pittsville School District until October, when all the numbers get sliced and diced. Although the budget has been signed, there are still things we need to keep an eye on. There was $50 million in general purpose revenue to fund a new literacy initiative. That is something we'll need to keep our eyes on. I think that is going to administrative rulemaking in DPI, and that could take forever. I think that the pressure needs to be on DPI to get this figured out quick and get the money out to schools,
yes.
as opposed to it being eaten up by the bureaucracy. So, questions, comments, thoughts?
For here.
Both of my passions got funded very well in the budget. It was a good budget year.
Good. Good.
So schools and long-term care fared very well.
Good.
So
Very
not so
good.
much childcare though. I think that's the big deal. Like even our childcare will
Yes.
hurt
Mhm.
because we had received some of the funding. I actually reached out to Jason to ask if we
That was
had
a hit
received
into it.
some of it. And so we had received some of the COVID funding, of which none of that got put into the budget. So, for the continuation of paying childcare providers more. So I see that as too focused. It's not only the revenue that Pittsville isn't getting, but it really concerns me when I look at the fact that we have wait lists, because the big deal is going to be, there's going to be more and more childcare centers that actually can't sustain themselves. I mean, we can sustain ourselves because we're the taxpayers are funding the rest of it. But there are other childcare centers that can't, and so when we are turning away our own employees being able to bring their kids, or our local community members being able to bring our kids, I think we have to really think about what that means when we're also asking the taxpayers to pay for it. And I think the demand and need for us to meet all of the needs of childcare will only increase because others are they're going to close. I mean, private childcare centers are really going to struggle to figure out how to function with what got lost. And so I think our responsibility becomes even more critical if this is something we're gonna take on and we are going to subsidize and fund, then we have a responsibility to figure out how to make sure we're really meeting our community need around it.
And I won't tell you, Julie, that the only reason we looked at all day 4K 5 days a week was that, because it wasn't. But one of the peripheral things we looked at was, we know we had a wait list of infants, and that there was, as she said, there's a little bit of a boom, which is a good thing for us, right? That we're seeing more infants, is that would open up spots for getting some of those infants. And so we're meeting all the needs, right, for students. One of the hurdles we're dealing with right now is that staffing, and then the space, the logistics as far as what's required in those spaces. I would agree with you, this needs to be like a top priority for us as a district, because childcare is something that is identified in our housing and childcare, so I concur. Needs to
And
be a priority.
legislatively, they did not get.
No, they
to the
didn't step
budget.
up on that,
Right,
for
and
sure.
so again, I think it creates an opportunity for us to locally
Agreed.
figure out how to help our local families, figure that out. And so that's why I just feel so passionately about if we're going to do it and we're gonna put resources into it, then we have to figure out how to really meet all of the need and not have people waiting. Awesome.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other comments or thoughts? Or on to agenda item number 12, public comments per policy 187. No public comments. Then, agenda item 13 will convene into closed session per Wisconsin statutes, chapter 19.85, paren A, paren C, district administrator evaluation.
Take some cinnamon rolls.
Yes.
Cinnamon rolls.
I've been looking at those cinnamon
I'm telling the one with all the frosting in the front there.
Do you want me to take roll call?
You
Yes,
got
please
family,
take
you
roll call.
got
I'm
family.
gonna take one for each of my kids.
Yes, roll call, Julie?
Chris?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Julie? Yes. Nate absent.
Okay, we are now into closed session. But first, let's have a restroom stop and a food stop.
Sounds good.
I do highly